Hello, welcome to the 2021 NYLA Council Candidates Q&A session. Today I'll be speaking with Natalie Hurteau from the Upper Hudson Library System, who is running for Councilor-at-Large representing a public library. Before we begin, please note that this session was pre-recorded for your convenience. We encourage you to take the time and watch each of the candidates' Q&As to get to know each of our candidates. The 2021 NYLA Council election will open voting starting on June 15th and will close on July 15th. NYLA will send you details on how to vote via email. Please note that your vote is anonymous and you'll only be able to submit your ballot once. In order to vote, you must be an active member. If you have any questions about how to vote in this election, please feel free to contact me at marketing@nyla.org. Finally, full bios of our candidates and the full recording of each Q&A session will be made available using the link found on the slide at the end of this recording. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Natalie for our Q&A session. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So our first question is, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, I'm Natalie Hurteau. I've been working within public libraries for a little over 10 years now. I would say public libraries are probably my biggest, passion. And they always say, like, if you have a job that you love, then you never work a day in your life. And I have to say that's very, very true for me. I've loved working within public libraries. And most recently, I started working at the Upper Hudson Library System as the adult and outreach manager I've been here about 2 years now. And it's been fantastic working within systems and helping support my member libraries and fellow colleagues.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. So just to jump into our questions. So what do you see as NYLA's most important responsibility to New York's library community?
So I believe if NYLA is going to use the voice of the library community as their motto, then that should be the most important responsibility of NYLA, in my opinion.
Yeah.
NYLA needs to listen to the voice of all the members and not only hear them, but to take direct action based on what the members want, even if that means reprioritizing or restructuring or pivoting immediately.
Yeah.
Yes, CE and advocacy and networking opportunities are very important, but I feel there have been major concerns regarding our community that are being ignored or placed on the back burner.
Oh, good to know. Thank you. So what do you feel is our biggest challenge as we move into this post-pandemic world?
So I think the pandemic has brought to light a crisis that has been dormant in the library community. And I don't use that word crisis lightly.
Yeah.
There are quite a few public libraries across the state, most of them associations, that have full-time employees with no health care, no retirement plans, or very little sick time.
Yeah.
And this is no health care or sick time in a global pandemic. Also, the salaries for these full-time professional positions, a lot of them are directors.
Yep.
They're despicable and disrespectful and just incredibly low. Unfortunately, libraries fell into that trap that a lot of businesses did when minimum wage was raised. Professional titles should have been raised at the same percentage, but there was zero collective advocacy for professional library titles across the state. Because unlike our public school teachers, public library workers do not have a state union. There are some libraries that do have unions, but not every library has a union. So there's no collective voice. And according to New York State, it is mandated that a public library of a certain population size must have a certified librarian as the director, which, as we all know, is a master's degree. And a master's degree can cost about 60 grand at least. So now you have a person who is 60 grand in debt, running a public library for $42,000 a year with zero health benefits, paid time off, or retirement in a pandemic. This isn't a challenge, this is a crisis.
Yeah.
Many library workers have zero support and are being run ragged. The burnout is real and turnover is high. The emotional and physical exhaustion and depression from the pandemic has hit our library workers hard, and NYLA needs to be the voice of the library community and advocate for our library workers, which is healthcare for every library worker and better wages for professional staff and better work conditions.
Thank you. So how do you see libraries moving forward or staying vital in the next decade and beyond?
So the pandemic also brought to light how important and vital digital resources and internet connections are. I can say that in Upper Hudson Library System, as soon as libraries closed down in March of 2020, we as a consortia immediately put all of our efforts into digital resources. We increased our spending in overdrive and worked together to provide Hoopla to every member library. We also used our adult literacy grants to provide GoToMeeting licenses for every member library so they could continue to have their board meetings and start virtual programming. So even though there is light at the end of the tunnel for this pandemic, the virtual world isn't going away. Public libraries need to be able to increase their virtual and digital resources and think of in terms of this being a way for the library to be open 24/7. Although libraries providing a community space for their patrons is still important, I don't believe it will be the main focus anymore, and funding and planning should be focused around more digital resources.
Yeah, I agree. So you kind of hinted about this a little bit in the other questions,
Okay.
but what do you see as the priority for NYLA in the next year?
So I believe the priority for NYLA hasn't changed. To me, it has always been and always will be advocacy, but NYLA needs to reprioritize what they are advocating for. So I believe NYLA needs to put their library workers first and advocate for health insurance, better wages, better conditions, and maybe not spend so much time on advocating for construction aid.
Got it. Thank you. And then our final question is, what skill set would you bring to this position?
So I feel I have a very unique set of skills, not to sound like, Liam Neeson there, but that set me apart from my fellow running mates. But I have worked within the public library for over 10 years and have held almost every possible position you can think of. I started as a volunteer at a small association library and then became a clerk there. And while I was working on my degree, I made the change from clerk to library trustee of the Altamont Free Library, just to help me better understand like how a library works. And then during that time, I even sat on the system board. So I was a system trustee for a year. I've also been a youth services librarian, and more recently, I was the director of the Brunswick Community Library and the Grafton Library simultaneously before I landed here at Upper Hudson as the adult and outreach manager. So I have also served as the secretary for the public library section of NYLA. My term is coming to an end this year. Yeah. And I am on the Friends of the Library Task Force. So because I have held many different positions and have interacted with many of my colleagues across the state, I feel as though I can be an excellent voice for public libraries on the council. And I have an excellent understanding of how public libraries function, from whether it's working the circulation desk, running the library, writing policies, or working on state aid.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course. And as I mentioned before, in the slide that will be coming up next, you'll see ways and how to watch all the other candidate videos and also how to vote. So thank you so much, Natalie, and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, bye-bye.